organism, plants too require energy for its life activities. So from where do these energy get to the plants? Yes, from the food. Which part of the plant prepare these foods? Yes, that is leaves. The process is called as photosynthesis. So here we can see that this energy required by the plant is get by the process called as respiration. In this chapter, we are dealing with how the plants respire and what are the two types of respiration, that is aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Now let us start. You can see that all the living cells of the plant as well as the animal cell need to respire, and you can see that which is the respiratory gas used in plants as well as in animals. Yes, that is oxygen. So here the overall respiration, you can see here the food material that is in the plant, the glucose, it is oxidized and it releases energy. So the equation we can show like this: glucose, what is the equation? C6H12 O6. This is called as glucose. This glucose will break down, that is, it combines with oxygen 6O2 in the presence of certain enzymes. And what are the end products formed? Yes, here it is 6CO2, that is carbon dioxide, then 6H2O plus energy. So here you can see that glucose, which is the food material produced in the plant, it is broken down with the help of oxygen. This is the respiratory gas. And what are the end products? You can see carbon dioxide, and then water is producing, and during this process what is released? Yes, energy. Do you know one molecule of this glucose when get oxidized? This is the process. When one molecule of glucose oxidized, you can see that energy released is 38 ATP. 38 ATP means adenosine triphosphate. We will study now. So here this process, that is the breaking down of glucose, this when we are representing it in an equation, you can see that it is in a single equation I have represented. But here you can see it is not happening in a single state. It happens in several states, mainly in two phases. What are these two phases? Yes, first one is called as, you can say that, glycolysis, and the other one is called as Krebs cycle. So what happens in this glycolysis? You can say that this glucose, you can see glucose break down into pyruvate. So during the first phase, that is called as glycolysis, you can see that this glucose, it breaks down and form the pyruvate. In the second phase, that is called as Krebs cycle, what happens is this pyruvate it is changing into carbon dioxide and water, releasing energy. So this is the entire process of this respiration, what takes place in the plants. This is what is aerobic respiration, because oxygen is needed. In presence of oxygen only this takes place. During the first phase, that is called as glycolysis, the glucose, it is broken down into pyruvate, and in the second phase you can see, that is the Krebs cycle, pyruvate is converting into carbon dioxide and water, liberating energy. Now you can see that you can see glucose is broken down into pyruvate, and pyruvate is broken down into carbon dioxide and water. In both the cases, you can see some enzymes will be working on. So here also you see when the equation when I wrote C6H12O6 plus 6CO2 gives, here on the top of this equation I wrote enzymes. That means when this glucose is converting into carbon dioxide and water, or the certain enzymes will be working on that one. So here I have not mentioned, but the entire equation is represented here. Then you can see that here the energy liberated, you can see that electrical energy will be in the form of heat. The remaining energy you can see in the form of ATP, chemical energy. It is stored in the form of ATP, full form is adenosine triphosphate. So, a very little energy will be liberated. Here the energy liberated I have shown you here, and very little energy will be liberated in the form of heat, whereas the remaining energy will be liberated in the form of ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate. This is what is adenosine triphosphate. And when energy in the form of ATP is used, what we can see when this energy in the form of ATP is used, this ATP will be converting into ADP. ATP will be converting into ADP. This is called as adenosine diphosphate. Then again more and more energy is using. You can see this ADP again converting into what? ATP. We can represent like this. So during the process of this respiration, you can see that in the form of, you can see carbon dioxide and again what? H2O, that is water, and ATP. Remaining energy will be in the form of ATP. During this process, you can see that it will be, when it is using, it will be converting into ADP again in the form of, when more and more energy is using ATP. It is using adenosine triphosphate. So I think you understood all these things. And ATP is called as the energy currency of the cell. Energy currency of the cell, because since ATP stores this energy. Living organism shows two types of metabolic activities. One is called as anabolic and the other one is called as catabolic. And anabolic means it is a constructive process. So, anabolic, you can see the metabolic activity in that first one is anabolic. It's a constructive activity, or you can see that building up. Can you say an example of building up of energy? Yes, that is photosynthesis. You can see that building up. So, another second one is called as catabolic. This is breaking down. So catabolic, it is breaking down. That here you can see that glucose is broken down. So anabolic process, one example is photosynthesis, whereas catabolic process, another example is what? Respiration. Now you can see that already I told you a little heat energy is liberating, and most of you may think that we can compare that respiration is most similar to combustion or burning. This combustion means burning. So how it is similar? Yes, both will be giving out heat, but there is a lot of differences between this combustion and respiration. First point is that this respiration that occurs in a series of chemical changes. Lot of chemical changes here itself you are seeing. Glucose, it is changing into carbon dioxide, water and energy. So in this lot of chemical changes takes place, whereas you can see that combustion that takes place in a single step. Second, we can see that this respiration carried out by the presence of enzyme, whereas combustion there is no enzyme is needed, only heat is needed for this combustion to take place. Third one, we can say that it's a biochemical process, whereas this one combustion it's a physiochemical process. And fourth one, you can see energy liberated will be ATP and only a little heat only will be liberated, whereas the energy liberated in combustion that is heat and light. And fifth difference you can see that in respiration you can see that no light energy is producing, whereas in combustion light energy is producing. And respiration is a cellular process, whereas combustion is a non-cellular process. And again this respiration that takes place in body temperature, whereas combustion takes place at a high temperature, that is, it needs an ignition temperature. A certain minimum temperature is needed for ignition to start the fire. So that is called as ignition temperature. So for this respiration, no such high temperature is not needed. So these are the differences between what respiration and burning or combustion. Then the entire plant body you can see that it respires. The entire plant body will respire. So you can see that even the deepest cell in the plant body, all the cell inside or the deep cell in the plant body also will respire. Usually you can see that the oxygen is obtained by three structures or three inlets in the plant. Which are those inlets? Yes, as you know, one is called as stomata. Where this stomata is present? Yes, this stomata is present on the lower surface of the leaf. Stomatal opening, which is very common in the lower surface of the leaf. Small two guard cells are surrounding that one. So through this stomata in the leaves, this diffusion of the gases takes place. And second one called as lenticels. Lenticels means it is a small opening that is present in the stem. In the big stem, the small opening which is called as lenticels, and on the general surface of the root. Third one, you can see that general surface of the root. So these are the three inlets by which a plant takes this oxygen. First one is stomata, which is present in the leaves, lenticels present in the stem, and throughout the surface of the root. You can see that usually farmers they will plow the field before they are sowing the seed. Why they are plowing? Yes, you can see that by plowing the field, you can see soil will be loose and little bit air spaces will be seen in between the soil. So you can see that the roots will get easily this oxygen. Then during daytime, you can see that plants two processes together it will take place. Which are those two processes? Yes, one is photosynthesis and another one is respiration. So photosynthesis you can see which is the gas mainly it is using. Yes, it is using carbon dioxide and it is releasing this one oxygen. So during photosynthesis carbon dioxide is using and this oxygen is given out, whereas during respiration you can see the oxygen the plant is using and carbon dioxide is given out. So you can see, whereas in the daytime you can, whereas in the night time you can see that only respiration takes place and photosynthesis will be absent. So plant will be using oxygen and carbon dioxide will be given out. Now let us see what are the two types of respiration. Already in the beginning of this class, I have told you that two types of respiration is there. One is called as aerobic respiration and another one is called as anaerobic respiration. So, aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration are the two kinds of respiration. Usually you can see that almost all organism, living organism, you can see that which type of respiration takes place. Yes, it is aerobic because we need oxygen. Almost all animals, you can see that oxygen is needed for respiration. So the case where oxygen is needed for the respiration, that is called as aerobic respiration, and here the carbon dioxide, water will be liberated, plus along with that energy will be liberated. The same equation we can represent for aerobic respiration, that is C6H12O6 plus 6O2. That here oxygen is utilizing in presence of certain enzymes. This reaction takes place, and what are the end products we are getting? 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus 38 ATP. So, here from this equation you can understand what is C6H12O6 as glucose. It is broken down in using oxygen, and here some enzyme also is working, and the end products you can see that carbon dioxide, water and 38 ATP. That means 1 mole of glucose. You can see that on oxidation it gives 38 ATP. And coming the anaerobic respiration, you can see some parts of the plant including seed or fruit or some other parts of the stem. Certain time you can see it will conduct towards anaerobic respiration. And what is this anaerobic respiration? In the absence of oxygen, if respiration takes place, that is called as anaerobic respiration. And this anaerobic respiration we can represent like this: C6H12O6 gives C2H5O5 plus 2CO2 plus 2 ATP. This is an equation to represent anaerobic respiration. What is the difference? Compare these two equations. What difference you can see? Yes, here both you can see that respiratory material or oxidation material, that is glucose. Here it is using oxygen, but here you can see that it is not using oxygen. In the absence of oxygen, this glucose is breaking down. And what is the end product in the first case? It is carbon dioxide, water and 38 ATP. Whereas here you can see 2C2H5OH. What is that? Ethyl alcohol or ethanol. This is nothing but ethanol and carbon dioxide. And what is the energy liberated here? 2 ATP only. Only 2 ATP is liberated in the case of anaerobic respiration. So in plants, suppose in the seed or fruit or in any part of the plant, if anaerobic respiration takes place, it may continue for a few days, but lifetime or lifelong it cannot continue this anaerobic respiration. Why it cannot continue? Because oxygen is absent, means what will happen? The plant cell will die. So here also in the same case, if plants using this anaerobic respiration, you can see that part of the plant where this anaerobic respiration takes place, that cell will die ultimately. Whereas you can see in certain kind of bacteria and fungi, usually commonly throughout their life, this anaerobic respiration only takes place. Now understood what is meant by aerobic respiration and what is meant by anaerobic respiration. Now what are the differences between these two, aerobic and By looking into the equation itself, you can understand easily. First, aerobic respiration, it proceeds only in presence of oxygen only. Whereas second, anaerobic, in the absence of oxygen, that respiration proceeds. And second one, you can see that this is a complex process, the breaking down of glucose, whereas complete breakdown of glucose will be taking place. Here, the incomplete breakdown of glucose in the anaerobic respiration, incomplete breakdown of glucose takes place. And the third one, end product is carbon dioxide, water and energy in the case of aerobic respiration. Whereas in anaerobic respiration, the end product is ethyl alcohol, carbon dioxide and 2 ATP. And again, the energy liberation also is different. That is, in the case of aerobic respiration, 38 ATP is releasing, whereas in the case of anaerobic respiration, only 2 ATP is liberating. That's all about aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Now, let us see some experiments related to this respiration. Here we can see some experiments based on this respiration. First experiment is oxygen is used up in respiration. How can we do this experiment? Here in the book on the board you can see that there is 2 conical flasks is arranged. With the help of a stand, 2 conical flasks is there. In one of the conical flasks you have to keep a cotton wool, it should be wet, okay, and some bean seeds you have to take, here in this conical flask. Whereas in the second case, in the second conical beaker, you have to take some dead seeds. How can you say this dead seed? By boiling. You take the seeds and boil it, so it will be dead seeds. Then again here you can see that in each case a test tube is hanged here, and then you have to keep some soda lime. A soda lime. Here also you have to keep this soda lime hanging in a test tube. What is the function of this soda lime, children? In a test tube you have to hang up the soda lime. Its function is to absorb carbon dioxide. Why we are keeping this soda lime? To absorb the carbon dioxide. So this entire apparatus you have to keep for 2 or 3 days like this. So in the first conical flask, certain germinating seeds or seeds soaked in water and kept here, and the cotton wool, it is wet cotton wool we are keeping. Here this is the dead seed, and again this dead seed we are washing with certain antiseptic like carbolic acid, something to kill, or if any bacterial growth is there, we have to prevent that one. So for then again soda lime we are keeping in both, a test tube is kept in both these conical flasks, and this is connected with a long glass bent tube, and this bent tube reaches here in a beaker which is filled with water. Okay, keep the apparatus like this for 2 or 3 or 4 days you can keep. Afterwards you can see that the level of the water in this glass tube, that is, let this be A and let this be B, and in this glass tube you can see that level in the water will be rising, whereas here in this glass tube you can see this much only a little. If it is there also a little only, whereas in the A test tube water is rising. What does this show? Yes, this shows that this plant after 3-4 days starts to germinate. It uses up this what? Oxygen for this respiration. This germinating seed, it used this oxygen for its respiration, and so when it is using this oxygen, you can see that this level in the water of this glass tube rises up. Whereas here you can see that these are dead seeds. How you kill the seeds? By boiling it and afterwards to prevent the decay or for the growth. If any bacterial growth is going on. To prevent that one, we again wash it with the chemical carbonic acid. And so here, whether the seed germinate after 3-4 days, no, the seed as it is dead, it has not germinated. So whether it used any oxygen, no, as the respiration does not take place, this does not use any oxygen, and so here you can see that the level will not rise up. So this experiment shows that oxygen is needed for respiration. Now another experiment, second experiment, that to prove that carbon dioxide is produced during respiration. CO2 is in germinating seeds. Okay, in germinating seeds, this carbon dioxide is produced. With a simple experiment, this also we can prove that during respiration, as you know, as per the equation, carbon dioxide is produced. C6H12O6 plus 6O2 gives 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus energy. So 6CO2 carbon dioxide is produced. How we can prove? You have to take two flat round bottom flasks. Like this. Two round bottom flasks you have to take, and few bean seed you have to take, which is soaked in water. And here cotton wool, wet cotton wool, in that few bean seed, 4 or 5 bean seed you are taking. Here in this flask you are taking what? The same cotton wool but killed bean seed. So here we are taking killed bean. So here you can see that we are keeping the seeds in the wet cotton wool, whereas here we are keeping the boiled seeds, that is we are killing the seeds. And again we are closing the mouth of this round bottom flask like this. Both this round bottom flask we are closing. And now keep it the same apparatus for 4 or 5 days. You keep it like this. After 4 or 5 days, when we are looking, you can see that this round bottom flask, which is called as A, this is B, this starts germinating. Small germination takes place here. Whereas in the B test tube, whether any germination takes place, no, there is no germination takes place in this second round bottom flask. Why no germination takes place here? Because the seeds are already killed one. By boiling, we have killed that seed. Now what you have to do? You have to take a test tube and in that you have to keep what? Lime water. Soda lime water we are keeping, and now take this test tube and you can see that pour this gas, some gas will be produced here. This gas trying to pour into this one. So the expected gas is carbon dioxide. The expected gas is carbon dioxide, which is in this round bottom flask. And so when we are involving this flask into the mouth of this test tube, as carbon dioxide is heavier than air, you can see immediately it will flow down into this test tube. And you can see that the lime water, clear lime water that turns milky, that is just like milk precipitation, white in color, it will be changing. So lime water turns milky, that shows the presence of carbon dioxide. In the second case, that B round bottom flask you have to take and do it in the same in the another test tube containing lime water. You do that one, you invert that one. You cannot see any change since there is no carbon dioxide is produced here because these seeds you can see these seeds they didn't respire. If it respire only carbon dioxide will be produced and then the lime water turns milky. Here you can see that this first one it turns milky because carbon dioxide is produced. From this experiment we can prove that carbon dioxide is produced during respiration in plants. So another alternative method is there. To prove the same experiment, there is another alternative method. Same for conical flask we have to keep. So in the same level, so we are arranging four conical flasks. And in each one, two hole rubber cork you have to fix. In each case, you have to fix two hole rubber cork. This two hole rubber cork to pass a bent glass tube. Here also another two hole rubber cork. Here also another two hole rubber cork, and in the fourth conical flask also a two hole rubber cork, and so as to pass the bent glass tube. Got it. So each of these four flasks also you have to close it using a two hole rubber cork. In the first conical flask you have to take what? KOH, that is potassium hydroxide solution. In the first conical flask you are taking KOH, that is potassium hydroxide solution, so that from here the air enters. As you know, the air contains carbon dioxide. If the air goes into this solution KOH, all the carbon dioxide will be absorbed here. Then goes to the second one. From here another bent glass tube is kept. Second one you can see that we are keeping lime water. Second solution, second beaker, we are keeping what? Lime water. So here you can see that all the carbon dioxide air will enter through this pipe, bent glass tube, and if any carbon dioxide is there, the potassium hydroxide solution will be absorbing this carbon dioxide, and then the air free from carbon dioxide enter into this glass tube and goes, which reaches the second conical flask which contain lime water, and this lime water it is clear. That means if carbon dioxide is present, this lime water turns milky. Here you got in the second case the clear lime water that shows that whatever carbon dioxide entered from air, that is absorbed by the potassium hydroxide present in the first conical flask, and so the air which is coming into the second conical flask will be free from carbon dioxide, and that's why lime water is not turned into milky. The third conical flask, which contains soft seeds, that cotton wool you are keeping, and some germinating seeds you are keeping. The seeds that started germination means it is respiring and oxygen is using, carbon dioxide is releasing. We want to prove that what carbon dioxide is produced during respiration. So you can see that from this air goes into this conical flask. So this air, whether it contains carbon dioxide? No, this does not contain carbon dioxide. So the free air without carbon dioxide goes into which one? The third one. This is the first A, this is B, this is C, and this is D. So when the air reaches in the conical flask named C, totally carbon dioxide is absent there. So the apparatus we are keeping there for viewers. So the germinating seeds, as you know, it will be respiring, and you can see that carbon dioxide gas automatically will be producing. Glucose will be broken down during respiration, and carbon dioxide gas will be producing. So here you can see the carbon dioxide is producing. So it is connected to the fourth one, that is D. And the fourth conical flask, what is the lime water? Again we are keeping what? In this one we are keeping lime water. Lime water, and again here another bent glass tube we are keeping for the air to go out. So from here the gas will be collected and it will go through this bent glass tube. It reaches the fourth conical flask where we get the clean or clear lime water. Colorless lime water we are keeping in the. This carbon dioxide is entering from the atmosphere. So here you can see that we proved by the second case. Here the clean lime water only, it is not turning into milky by showing the absence of carbon dioxide. In the third case you can see the germinating seeds we get. You can see that these seeds respire. It using this glucose, it oxidizes that glucose and carbon dioxide is producing. That carbon dioxide, there is no other way to escape through this bent glass tube only. This carbon dioxide gas will be going and it is reaching in the fourth conical flask. There we get some clear lime water, and the lime water now turns into milky. This shows that this carbon dioxide, it came from the third conical flask only, and that's how the carbon dioxide gas is formed here by the respiration of this germinating seed.